Hey everybody, it's Andrew Brown from the AWS Cloud Project Bootcamp bringing you another video, and this time it is doing the backend implementation for Congito. So we are letting Congito be authenticated and do a lot of the work on the front end, but we do have to make sure that we protect our API endpoints. So the idea is that we need to pass along our access token, which we stored in our local storage earlier on when you saw that we had logged in over here in the home page over here. Was it this one? Sorry, when we signed in here, we set this in our local storage. So this is something we need to pass along with our API calls. So if we go over here, we have this token here, or sorry, this address or our endpoint that is going to call to our backend. And so it has to pass along that token. So if we go back over to our code over here, I saved this one part. And we'll grab these headers. And what we can do is place this here. Whoops. And so that will pass along that header for the authorization token. Now, the other question to that is how do we read that in our backend? So that'll be our next challenge. So what I'm going to do is go over to our backend. And I actually have no idea how to do this in Flask, so we'll have to look it up. So how do I view headers in request in Flask? And here it suggests we import request, and we do that. So I'll go back over here. Let's see what we have imported. We already have request imported. So what I'm going to do is go here. And we will look for our home. I can't remember what it is. Print. It's not printf, is it? This is print. And we need the header name. So the header name here would be, bring this over here. Homepage feed. It's the bearer token. Authorization is the header. Okay. And that's a pretty common header for authorization. If you want to look it up, look it up. And we'll see if we can print out any information there. I'm just going to put another one here, like say auth header, and see if we can get any information. We'll have to open up our logs here for the backend, view logs. I'll drag this open here so it's a bit easier to see. And so I want to see if any of that happens there. Try this again. Nothing logging out. Did we override our logger? I think we did. But that's up here. For Flask, see why we don't see it. Here it's suggesting that we have to import sys for that, so that we're going to SD out, I suppose. Let's see if that makes any difference here. So I'll do this. And we will go down back to our print statements here. We will try this out. We want SD out. See if that makes any difference. Sometimes printing out to the containers is a bit tricky, so if it doesn't work instantly, we'll know why. We'll just do it on the first one, see if that makes any difference here. It's not working, but there's no errors. Oh, there's an error here. Well, there was before anyway. Nothing still. But these are logging. So clearly something is logging. To flush is flush true. We can try that as well. Another thing I was thinking was that it had to do something with the logger. Usually that's what you use, but again, I don't use Flask on a day-to-day basis, but we will figure this out together. Let's try flush instead. Give it a refresh here. Still nothing. Does not want to log here. And here they say app logger. See, that seems more appropriate to me. Let's try this. Okay, still no logging. This thing doesn't want to log to save its life. And it could depend on the log level, so because we are on info, so we could try debug here as well. So I'm not sure why it's not returning any data. Oh, it's failing this CORS request pre-flight. So you know what? It's not because it shouldn't be able to see it. It's because we haven't updated our CORS. I think in part of our code, I did suggest to update that. Apparently I didn't. In here. CORS, did I put it at the top? No, it's not even in this file. So I'll have to edit it and go grab the code because I know that it's missing. I'm just going to grab it off screen here real quick. And I'll dump it in this file. I just have it sitting in another repository. So this will take me a moment. EXP. We will go over to back in Flask. I'm doing this off screen, so you're not going to see what I'm doing here. And I'm grabbing an updated CORS for this here. Okay, so you definitely would need this. Do we need to add any new imports? Let me just double check here. CORS cross origin. I don't think so. I think we already have those included at the top here. Let me check. Yeah, we do. Okay, great. So what's missing is just this code here. So down below, you can see that we have some changes here. So we're allowing the authorization header because that's a special kind of header and we have to filter it out and we can expose that header. We had some other ones set here before. I don't know if we actually had to have them set. It was just those were set by default. And so Baco had replaced them and I was like, are you sure shouldn't we leave these in here? And he said, well, there's no ill effect. So until we have a reason for these other headers, it's okay if we replace them and we'll see if this fixes our issue. At least to get rid of that pre-flight CORS. Yeah, that's great. We'll go back over here. Do we get logging? We do. And honestly, it's better if we do the logging instead of through print through the app logger. I just didn't know how to do it. And now that we know how to do it, we should just, anytime we log, we should try to use that instead. But anyway, I want to print out the authorization header and see what we can see. So I'll go here and we will grab this. And just make sure that we have it before anything else so that we're not just blindly debugging things. Let's try this again. Refresh the page. Great, so we have that access token being passed along. You really don't want to share those access tokens with people because, well, they're the access token, that's how people get access. But I just wanted to make sure that was being set correctly, so we'll just hit that a few times. So that is being passed along. So What do we do with that access token? Well, that access token, I guess that's the JWT, and the idea is that we need to decode it in order to extract information and verify that it is correct. The idea is that we don't have to go out to a server to, other than grabbing a key to match it against a Congito, we don't have to do anything server side, which is great. It's all handled by Congito. There was a library that Beko was using because he did implement this, but I think, yeah, this is in this app here. You don't have access to this. I'm just showing to you. So we had used this library here, right? And then on my investigation, I was like, oh, this is a third-party app. There wasn't actually one by, yeah, if you like looked up Flask Congito, you'd end up on this. And so when I looked at it, I went to the source and I saw that it was a community-driven plugin, not by AWS or anything like that. And so I said, okay, well, we could use this, but this is really for server-side stuff. Like, remember I said earlier that you can do everything client-side or server-side? This would be useful if you wanted to like create the user, create the sign-up, everything server-side, and not have everything client-side. But what I'm going to do is I only want part of the code out of here. I don't want all the other actions. I just care about validating the token, right? And you can do this with JWT libraries, and basically we could write our own thing, but it probably would end up being basically the same thing. So I just want to basically copy this. So what we'll do is make ourselves a new service. And by the way, I haven't done this yet. I'm just doing it on the fly. I got a lot of confidence here. So we'll need this somewhere. These services are service objects. They're not necessarily like service. They call theirs a service. I suppose I can put this under here. I really don't want to. I'm going to make a new folder called lib here. And I'm going to just say token like Congito token verification. I meant to call that a PI file. And what I'll do is I'll go and grab this code. Thank you for the code. We're going to change it. And I'm going to go to the top here. And so I'm going to call this Congito token verification. And this is the thing is you shouldn't be afraid to open up code and play around with it and try to figure out how other people are doing stuff, because a lot of times you'll open things up and find they're simpler than you think. So they have like this custom error here and stuff like that. So what is this thing doing? Well, we have an initialize function. That's the first thing they'll get called when this is initialized. And you can see that we have user pool ID, the client, the region, the request client, some stuff getting set. Then it loads the JWT, and so the idea is that this gets loaded down here. And it has a URL. This is like a common URL to get this JWKS JSON. I remember this is like some kind of like key or something. It's like a way of validating that this JWT token or whatever is valid based against what Congito generated. So it's the only thing that we have to go out to the internet for, but this is like a read-only static thing. That we can find out for the user pool. Here we're extracting the header information. So here it's expecting the header to be, that authorization token. So I think we can walk through this and figure it out. Then we have the verification signature. So it works through here and decodes it. Then extracts the claims, whatever claims mean. I don't even know what that means, but it's probably the data from it. And at the end, we call that when we verify it, we do token current time. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I would like to not use this client, or if we do use it, I'd like to know what it's doing. Anytime I use any code, I like to go through it and make sure I understand it. Get sign in URL. Man, there might be more to this. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe I will not do this right now. I just think there's some limitations with this library, and I think we're going to hit them really soon. But I think what we'll do is we'll use them, and if we hit those limitations, then I will roll back and not use it. But until I guess we run into that issue, I shouldn't probably make us write a bunch of code. But I might change my mind, okay? So we'll have Flask AWS Congito here. We will stop this here, or we'll go and do down, I guess. And I'll go over here and we will go into the Flask app. I'll do a pip install. There's a T requirements.txt. Might be R. I'm in the wrong directory. I think it's -R. There we go. You can see it's installing a bunch of stuff. So like that's the thing, is that if you bring in a library, you should really know what it's doing before you install it and see if you can pare it down. There's just some things that it might be doing that I'm not sure on how to do, because it does kind of add something that looks like middleware. So anyway, that looks like that is installed now. I'm going to do a compose up. And we will see how we can implement this. There isn't a lot of documentation on this here, so we'll have to dig into the code. There's some environment variables it expects to be set here. So the Congito user pool ID, the client ID, things like that. I suppose what we should be doing is setting those environment variables. So we will go back over to our Docker compose YAML file, and we will go up here and we will set them in here. So what does it want? It wants, well, we don't have a domain yet. And we probably will never need one because we're never doing a hosted UI, so we don't ever need to use that. We don't have a client secret, so we don't have to worry about that. So we really only have to set these two. And we don't need to set a redirect because that's if we did it server side. So we need these two set. That's it. So we'll paste those in. Because again, that stuff is for like server side. We just want to use this to verify the token. So there's some code in here we don't need in that library. And, you know, if I decide, I might pare it down and bring it in another video, but let's just try to make it a little bit easier for everybody here. So this is user pool ID. So we'll go up down to here. We'll bring this in here. So we will paste that in. We will go here and we will paste that in. I think the other one was default region. That's already set up here, so that's okay. We'll have to go back here and do another up. And we'll go back to our app.py. And we'll take a look here. My concern was that, I mean, we do authenticate this here, but it's the fact that there's this, and I don't know if this will like prevent us, like, because what I want is I want to hit an endpoint and I want it to either authenticate or not authenticate. And if it doesn't authenticate, then I want it to return a generic endpoint. And if it doesn't, or does, then I want to give an authenticated endpoint. And when I look at this, I think it's going to return a 403 and just only be if it's authenticated. And then I'm not sure if that we can do that check if this library is limited. So that's what we're going to find out. We'll go ahead and import this here in the top. So that's kind of my concern. Put this somewhere here. Maybe put this up more here. We'll go back over here. So I have to do a bit of this. This has to be after the app. At least that's where they're doing it. So we'll put this here. We only need these two things. So we will take out this and this. And we need to bring in the nvars. I'm just looking for a previous example because I don't remember how to do it. Type in env, there it is. So we'll go here, copy this. I'll go here, grab this here, paste paste. We'll grab that. We will paste. We will grab that. We will paste. We'll delete that out. So that should set those. Then we have this here. And then the next thing is we'll have to grab this. Again, I don't know if this is going to cause us an issue, but I guess we'll find out. We'll find the homes page. We'll paste this in here. We'll grab the claims. And I think print does work. I think we were just running into an issue earlier, but I'll do app.log, logger.debug, and we'll put the claims in here and see if that picks up. We'll just put claims twice in here and see if that works. I think we restarted this, so it should work. We'll refresh, see what errors we get. It is causing some problem. Go over to Docker. We will go to the backend, view the logs. It was Congito user pool client secret. There's no secret to set. We didn't set one because we're not using it. So this is where it's kind of annoying because we don't need a secret. I guess I could look to see if I could set one to meet the requirement for this library. Yeah, I think we would have to create it. Yeah. So if I went back to, where was it here? And I created a new client app and I went down below, then it would make sense to generate a secret. Choose whether the app client will have a client secret. Secrets are used the server-side component as an app to authorize the API request. We're not authorizing API requests. We're not doing any API requests server-side. So we just hit the limitation of this library. So was my concern there. So I guess we're just going to have to do it and suck it up. And it's not going to be fun. Okay, so I'll go ahead and delete that out. This is where it gets hard, okay? And we will delete this part out because we have to dig through a library. This is what happens sometimes is that if you work in a framework and they don't have a good library or they're poor documentation, then this is what you run into. My background's Ruby. Ruby had a very long period where it was very popular. So there's a lot of code for it. And it was at a point where it really did define best practices that are used by all frameworks now. Flask Python's really popular, but still the ecosystem for existing documentation is not great, and some libraries aren't great. And this one, I appreciate the person for making it, but it's not flexible, so we will have to go fiddle around with it. So what I'll do here is go back here and make our new folder, and we will now have to write code. So I'll just put back in here Congito, verification, Congito, JWT, token verification. And we will just have to go do this. So we'll go back over here. I'm pretty confident I can do it. I just didn't want to have to do it if we didn't have to. So we'll go into here. We will go into here. We will go into here. And we will grab this out here. We could also fork this, like pared it down and forked it. But then I'd have to figure out how to import the library. I didn't want to figure that out, so we'll just do it this way. Okay, so there's that. I'm not sure about these here. So there's these two things that are getting pulled in. We'll go back here. This is for exceptions. So yeah, there's their exceptions. I thought that's where I was like, oh, it looks like there's more to it. But apparently it's not that bad, so we'll do this. I hope Jose's or Jose's stuff is good here. Or maybe that's just what it's called. I don't know what the one is for Flask. Sometimes there's like ones that are you're supposed to use, and sometimes it's somebody else's thing. So we can just take that out like that. And then we will go up here and we'll import that. So we'll say from lib dot Congito verification import, and we'll just bring that over like this. Paste that in. Okay. We'll go below the app. I don't think it matters if it's below the app because this isn't app specific because we haven't tied anything to the Flask app. Maybe we can if we keep digging in the code, but I'm going to just paste that on in here and we'll create a new object here. Is that how you initialize? Or maybe it's new in front like this. I don't know. Again, I'm Rubyist, so how to initialize a class in Python. And it's in my cloud programming course, but I don't remember. Oh, you just literally call the name. Okay. Okay, so we'll do that. And this expects some fields. Go back over here. It wants self. What's the self for? I don't know why self is there. I mean, self, I understand why it's here because then it can reference its own thing. I don't know why self is its first parameter. Well, I'll leave it alone. And we'll see what we need to figure out here. Request client, I don't know what that is for, but we know that we need these three things. So we will go user plank to region. So we'll go ahead and grab these. I'll go back over here. We will paste this in. I like using this syntax because then it's a lot more clear what's being passed in here. So I'm going to do that. Or you know what, it's equals. I'm doing Ruby again here. We need to do, what is it, os.env and run. I don't trust this. I'll just type it in manually, find it here. env. env. Oh, it's os.getEnv. Okay. So go os.getEnv. And so then we need something here, os.getEnv. We need something here, os.getEnv. We need something here. This will be whatever we set earlier. So we'll go back to our Docker Compose file down below here. This is our pool user ID up here. This is our client here. We will get our region here as such. Because I know that they need them to create the URL, right? So we'll go grab those. We're not supposed to have a colon on the end there. Great. So that's what it expects for that. So yeah, if there's no region, you're supposed to provide a region. That makes sense. User pool ID, client ID, claims are none, request client, load this. So that's why it wanted the region user pool ID, so it could generate out that. We have the request client here. I still don't know what that is. We'll find out here. Well, I guess that's up here. If not request client, then get. Request.getClient. Okay. Oh, I guess, okay, so it's calling request.get. Request is something that you can import. And so I guess if you wanted to override it and pass your own, you could do that. Probably what we'd always do is do request.get, but I guess if they're calling that somewhere else, I suppose you could do that. So we'll leave that alone. Here we can see it's doing some exceptions here. Extract header, that's great. And this is what I mean where I say, like, you don't need to know coding, but you do need to know coding, because if you have to work with a library and it's poorly built, you have to go digging. So you have to be comfortable with doing that. I'm not a Python expert, but I'm able to open this stuff up and figure it out. If you have to do it, you have to do it. You have to get it to work. So just looking through this here, token stuff, okay. What I'm looking for is functions that are leaving this thing to see if I have to pull anything out, or there's something that I don't understand. I don't see anything here that requires me to know the secret. I don't know why this is blank. This seems like this is a problem here, or I didn't copy this correctly. Let's go back over to the code here and see what I'm missing. Oh, this part here. I think this is the only file we need, because we don't really need to do anything with the API, and I imagine that this is API stuff. Yeah, like get sign in URL, exchange the token code. This is all stuff we don't need. Let's look at the init. I'm trying to understand, like, how does it tie into Flask? Factory service, create some stuff here. That's nothing. I'm still, again, trying to figure out how to bootstraps, probably in the init here. Flask imports it, okay. Extract access token. So there's this. Plugin. This is probably where we do the Flask stuff. Because again, it's doing some kind of magic, and I'm trying to figure out where that magic is coming from. So here I can see something's imported. That's why libraries, it's better if they don't write the magic in, because it's easier for integration. Like, it's easier for you to understand all the moving parts to debug and fix it. If it's a really well supported library, then it's less of an issue. But for us, we have to go digging for it. It was Congito authentication. Setting some stuff here, Congito service. I'm not reading this whole thing, I'm just kind of skimming it. Get access token. Yeah, and this is that function we saw earlier. So this clearly is a Flask plugin. I don't know how to write those, but here you can see, and it really, I guess that's a decorator. That's a type of a way of, that's that one line that goes above a function. So what it does is it extracts the access token. So we will need that function to get the access token. And then it's doing this stuff. And it pulls an exception here, and it doesn't abort, and it sends back a 401. So it does exactly what I thought it was going to do. I said 403, but it sends back a 401. So we really did need to extract this out in order to override the behavior. And then it's doing this service verify token. So we'll need some of this code. I'll go back over here. I'd rather just throw that other function in there so I don't have to look for it. So we need this utility here, and we need to extract this out. Is there anything that it is using up here, like the MD5? Or this get state? Is this being used anywhere here? No. Is this being used anywhere here? Down there. Import headers. This is used here. So I'll grab this function. I'll just paste it here for the time being. And there's this HTTP header. So we'll go back to the constants. We'll take a look at what this is. Authorization. Okay, so I'll bring that over. Really don't need to have that as a constant. I don't know why they wrote it that way, but you know, people can write code all sorts of ways. But I'll put it up here just because they have it. So I'll paste it in here. I don't like how long this name is, Congito token. Let's just call it Congito token. Or to make it a little bit more human readable, JWT token, because that's what we're doing is working with JWT token. And I'll go back here, and this can be Congito JWT token. This function is loose here. We can't just leave it like that. There's probably some way to write a class function in Python. Let's see how do we do that? Is it just self in front of it? Is it just class method in front of it? That's all we do? We just put a decorator called class method? Okay. So what we can do is just put maybe class method above there like this. We'll cut this out. We'll put it, the initialize probably should come first. Doesn't really matter, but we'll just do that. And that way we can just reuse it in this function here. We'll go back over here. This is no longer what that is called. So we'll go back and grab this like this. We'll paste that there. So do that. I mean, we don't really have to make it a class function because, well, whatever, we did. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying that we have that, so we could have just called it normally, but we did, and I don't care to change it. So what we'll do is we'll go down below to our home here. And so we were doing this claims here before. I have to split this. I already forgot the name of the other one. They call this AWS auth, which is not true. It's called whatever else it is now. Congito, whoops. Congito. JWT token, we'll leave that open there. We need to grab, the code in the plugin to see how it works. So here it grabs the request token. So it's kind of this code here that we're looking for. Go down below. If there's some way we can refactor this, we will. This probably should happen before we call the data because the data needs to know if it's authenticated or not. So we'll just go, whoops, here. And also these will get moved up above here. Okay. Not sure why it has oh, the indentation's wrong. Okay, that's fine. This one looks wrong here. There we go. Okay, so to extract this header out, we need to do it here. Like this. Come on. Copy properly, please. The big disadvantage of using a browser. Okay, so this request header passes into here. And so the idea is that that's the request that's incoming. And then it says pass the headers of the request. Get HTTP header, which is just authorization. And really, we could just take this and put this here because there's no reason this would ever change. We're not going to change that header. Okay, so get the header request. Split it. It's a very simple function, to be honest. It's just splitting it and getting that access token on the end. If you remember back in our application earlier, when we actually set it in the, what was it, home? Or sorry, sign in. If you go to our sign in page here, you will see, oh no, it's actually in our home when we actually send it. So all it's doing is saying, return this part, and then split on the empty blank space and return this part, the actual token. Very simple function, not doing a whole lot that's complicated. And then just return that, very simple. So that makes sense. Just close a couple of these JS pages since we're not doing that right now. Coming back over to the app.py. I have a little spelling mistake there. Actually, the end's supposed to be on like that there. Okay, so it'll go here, and then it says self.token service. It's not self. It's going to be this we initialized earlier. Like that. And so that verification service is going to return to us claims. Or at least that's what it should return. So if we go back over to this here, we go down to our verify method. It goes self.claims equals claims. I guess it's storing it on that. So in a sense, it's applying it to itself. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just going to do return claims. So I don't have to do anything odd there. If it runs into an error, then it would do this and it would abort and return that error. If the claims are set, this is still valid, so we'll go ahead and do that. We'll see what errors we get. Even before we run it, we can see there's errors happening down below. No module found called lib Congito token verification. This is in app.py line 17. Go up to line 17. That's fine because we changed the name of this, right? So we'll go here, and now this is lib.jwt token like that. Cannot import name Congito token verification because we changed the name for that. So we will go back to here and we will copy that and paste it. No errors, cool. That doesn't mean it works, but at least we don't have errors, syntax errors. Let's refresh the page. And what do we get? Extract token takes one position as an argument. We didn't pass any arguments to this, or at least I don't think I did. So we'll go back to app.py. It's complaining about this. Requests header takes one positional argument, but two were given. I don't think two were given. We'll go back over to here. We will take a look here. I see one. Okay, I don't understand the syntax too much myself, so what I'm going to do is just take this out and see if I can just get this to work another way. I just do not feel like getting better at using Python right now. And people that know Python are laughing at me going, Andrew, you had to remove that self or something like that. Sometimes you just got to get it to work. Takes one positional argument, but two were given. Fine, I will read. In Python, this my object.method foo is syntactic sugar, which the interpreter translates behind the scenes as my class.method my object, which as you can see does have two arguments. It's just the first one is implicit. This is because most methods do some work with the object they're called on, so there needs to be some way for that object to be referenced inside. By convention, the first argument is called self inside the method defined. If you call a method foo on the instance, new class, it works as expected. Occasionally, you don't really care about the object that your method is bound to in that circumstance, etc., etc. So I'm not exactly sure what the issue is here. Let's see what request headers returns first. So what I'll do is do app.logger.debug request headers. And we'll save that. We will go back and refresh. And what do we see? I'm trying to see what it logs for that. So it actually is returning stuff back there. So it definitely is not blank. So we know that at least. Takes one positional argument, but two were given. This one's annoying. Okay. What I'm going to do is I just want to rule it out because this class has some stuff I don't know about, like this self-referencing stuff. Like I'm not really familiar with that. At least I don't remember. So I'm just going to make a new class, as silly as that sounds. We'll cut that out and just work around that problem, okay? Now, if I could just import a function, that'd be great. I don't think I can do that. Maybe I can. Maybe I can. Let's just see if I can. In Ruby, I don't think they'd let you do that, but let's see if you can do it in Python. I mean, it's not complaining. If it's not complaining, then why not try? Still no complaints. Okay, so now we have a different problem. Now it's not calling that in here. No, so it's not in here, so that's totally fine. We know why this token verify error does not work. It's because we need to import it into this one. So we are getting in better shape here. I know like 6 or 7 languages, but it's really hard to keep track of what you can and can't do. So you just always have to kind of test it. We'll go back over here. We'll refresh. Congito JWT token object has no attribute called token service. That's right, it doesn't, because I think we renamed it. We'll go back over here. Where is it erroring out on this? Line 168. But it must be internally in here somewhere. It is going to the verify, so I'm going to assume that it's somewhere down here. I don't see it. Token service. Nope. Okay, let's just type in token. Oops. Well, that doesn't make any sense. It's just this. Okay, that's just an error on my part. Okay, no errors, good. Refresh. We'll go back. Name abort is not defined. Fair enough. Abort is probably imported for something. Abort. It's part of Flask. I don't know what the abort does. Let's take a look here. Abort in Flask. Let's see here. Flask comes in handy with abort function that aborts a request with an HTTP code early. It also provides a plain black and white error page for you with a basic description. Depending on the error code, it is less or more likely for the user to actually see an error. I don't want the user to see an error. I don't want to use abort in this case. So I don't really want any of this. This would really happen if the token wasn't verified. So this would just be unauthenticated. So this would be authenticated. This would be the unauthenticated request. Now, there's not really any data that I need from this, so I guess I'll just take that out for now. And I'll take this and I'll put this up here because that makes more sense. App, logger, debug. We'll just say unauthenticated. And up here we'll say authenticated. Go back over here, give it a refresh. It says it's unauthenticated. Now, is that true? Because I'm pretty sure we do have an access token. And we are logged in over here. So this is maybe not exactly true. So we'll go back over here and take a look. At least it wasn't able to verify it. Here we might get different errors. So token error verify. So there's different reasons for errors. So maybe what we should do is actually log that error and see what it is. I think we could just pass it in there. We might have to do e.message, I'm not sure. Token was not issued for this audience. What does that mean? User pool client. So here it says audience claims odd if odd in claims, else claims client ID. So maybe something's not matching. So what I'd have to do is we need to log some stuff here. Let's see if we can just print here. Just going to dump some stuff here. See if it picks up. And now it says token is expired. Refresh. Now, if a token expires, it probably would auto-renew it. So I'll go back to this library here. We'll take a look here. I'm just seeing if there's some other additional code missing. I'll be back in a second. I'm just going to read a bit. Nothing really of interest, but what I'm going to do is, because I really need to know what's going on here when it's hitting some of these errors. This error did not help me too much. Like, I need to know what data, because clearly, like, the first one wasn't that it was expired. It was giving me that the audience was incorrect. So use claims client ID to verify the access token. And something didn't match. Maybe I entered the client ID incorrectly. Let's go double check and see what we have set for those before we proceed forward. So we will go into the, we'll attach the shell. And we'll just do env and see what we have set for this shell. So that's that there. Let's go double check that it's set correctly. Leave that page there. Does that look right to you? Looks right to me. That one's right. What about the client ID? 5B6 1G5. I don't even see it set. It's called what client? There it is. 5B6 1G5. So those both look correct to me. I'm not sure why there's a double equals here. Is that supposed to have a double equals? So I just type in client here. Why does that one have a double equals? I mean, that might explain why it's not working. We'll go to Docker Compose. Oh, yeah, there you go. No wonder it didn't like it. Okay, that's why it's good to always double check these things and read very clearly. We will do a Docker Compose up. Now, I don't know if because it wasn't able to match it, it would expire it. I don't see why that would expire it. In worst case, we'll log out, log back in. The real question would be is like, what happens when a token does expire? And are we handling it correctly? I guess we'll find out. So yeah, Congito is very easy to use if you use the hosted UI and you don't ever touch anything on the back end. But if you want to integrate it properly, like the way we're doing, which is what all companies would want to do if they use it, you can see it gets a bit more complicated than that. But yeah, most instructors will, or content creators do not show it the full way here for whatever reason. Because you can see they'd have to, like for Flask, I have to dig through all this code just to get it to work. But once it's there, you know? Okay, so this is all started back up. We'll go back over here. We'll give this a refresh. We'll see if there are any errors over here. We need to go back, I guess, to open the logs. Is this still here? Is this new logs? I can't tell. I'm not sure. So I'm going to close this log. I'm going to go back up to here. We'll go into the back end here. We will view the logs. Click in, click in. Token is expired. That's fine. We will log out. If we still have this token expire thing, I'm just going to go ask Bako to help us. He's really good at solving these kind of things. Capital T, testing 1, 2, 3, exclamation mark. Capital T, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, exclamation mark. There we go. We're back in. Let's go back over here. Ooh, authenticated. Ooh. Yeah. Okay, so it's verifying that we are logged in. It's returning back the claims. So the claims gives us information like this stuff. So that's really good. So now what we can do is go back to here. And so this endpoint here really is going to change. So the idea is that we have one for here and one for here. And we would probably have to pass a flag in here, like for what information we want. So if we go back over here for a moment, and we go into home activities, this will have to take a parameter in the future to say, this one is authenticated, this one is not authenticated, right? Right now, we could like instrument a lot of this stuff or like hook up all the parts, but it's not really going to matter until we start implementing these things. So maybe we can defer that work till later down the road. I really do wonder if we're going to have this token verification expire thing issue happen in the future. I'm just not sure. I guess if we really wanted to make sure this is working correctly, what we could do is just maybe add an additional one here to verify. So what I'm going to do here is go here and add an additional result. This is an array, so I should be able to push something to it. Push to front of array Python. There's a lot of different data types besides just an array, so I can't always guarantee that it'll work correctly. So I guess insert is what we use here. Depends on what the data structure is. So we will go here and I'll do this down here, but I'll say results dot insert at 0. What we'd want to pass along is like who the user is. So maybe we go back up here for a moment and see what this returned. Token use. We have the username here. Oh, by the way, remember I said that the username is going to be something funny? This is what I was talking about earlier. So it generated out a UUID for us, that unique identifier for that user. Also notice that the sub is the same thing. I don't know which one matters to use. So it could be the sub, it could be the username. It really depends on what we would do. Usernames should be unique in the application here. So I'm going to use, I guess, the username because it's something that we would never change because it's unique, right? So in the claims, we should be able to go here. I think I can just do that. I can't tell if it's nested further in here. I think that's all it is. If that's the case, we'll do username, or I'll just say like Congito user ID, because that's how we're treating it really. And I will pass it in that way. I'll give it an equals instead here. And we will go back over here. We'll say allow nil or null parameters in Python. I don't remember everything in Python. I don't even want to go to these stupid websites where they have all these ads. Write a Python function that allows a null parameter. I just want a quick example so I can see. Param equals none. That's what I thought it was. So I think I have to do that, otherwise I'll have an issue. So I'm just going to do none here. So if we go down below, and it kind of works out anyway because we kind of need it to say that. So if we do this, this should probably work. Else. Okay. How to check if a variable is not none in, I bet it's just, it's really, I know this seems really dumb to put in here, but the thing is, like in Ruby, we can do unless, and so I don't know if the unless syntax is there. Does Python have an unless syntax? No, it does not. Yeah, it's just going to be that. I just, like, if there's a cleaner way to do it, I just wanted to know, because it has an is. Does it have an is not? Does Python have a is not? And sometimes these things aren't the same thing, right? So like in a language, you can't always just do is not. It might actually do something completely different. Why using isn't is comparable unexpected can lead to unexpected variables. So we probably shouldn't use the is, even though they did anywhere there. They probably should use the double equals. But we'll do. I know this just from using languages for years and years, but I'll use an if not is not. So what I want to do is just add one here, and this will just be like our secret one that only authenticated users will see. We'll go ahead and paste this in. And we'll just say like extra crud. And we'll go down below here and we'll indent this and we'll say extra crud. And hopefully that works no problem. Right now it doesn't do anything with the thing there. We'll refresh, no problem, there's an error. What is param? It doesn't know what param is, that's fine. Congito, user ID, that's fine. Refresh that. We need to make this a secret, so we'll just say lore. Lore is a character from Star Trek. It needs evil. But we'll put that there. We'll give him a bunch of likes for fun. Okay, so this is returning because we're authenticated. If we log out, it should not show up anymore. Okay. So I think the thing is that when we sign out, it's not clearing that token. So what we'll do, because the token's still there, right? Which is kind of weird because it should log us out of everything. Now, there is like a time where it says like it's expired and the auth time and like what is the time now? So I just kind of wonder if there's an edge case we're missing here. I'll have to investigate that further, but let's just get it kind of working and feel like we've got it working 100%. So what I'll do is go back over to here and we will go to the sign out page. Sign out, sign out, sign out. That's in the profile, I think. If we go into profile info, maybe. Here. I remember we have sign out here. We need to get rid of that local storage, but should also not work anymore. So I'm kind of surprised about that. We will go to the sign in. In the front end app. Because it sets this here. How to, let's write in here. How do I unset an item in local storage for Chrome. Remove item. Okay. Again, that makes me wonder if there's some additional things we need to do here. Because why was I able to be still authenticated when I'm no longer, I clearly logged out. I clearly signed out, right? Well, it says I'm signed out, but the that token there is still returning data. So yeah, I don't understand that fully, but at least we know that that has been unset. But if this is not set, then there would be nothing to grab out of the authentication, and then that would make more sense there. So what I'll do is I'll just log back in here. Capital T, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, exclamation mark. We'll sign in. And I just want to refresh this page, even though I know it did a hard refresh. We'll sign out. Okay, so it's not showing that anymore. That doesn't mean that this is perfectly solved, but we've solved enough for now. And I will have to go talk to Baco and say, hey, look at these edge cases. Do you think that we're missing something here? We're still logged in, or is it a caching issue or whatever? But functionally, it looks like it's working. So pluses on that. Implement backend check for the token. So you're going to be asking me, Andrew, how do I get access to all of this code? Now, really, you should be following along and doing exactly what I'm doing. But if you watch to the end of the video, and or if you've been learning from past ones, you can always go to the repository and grab the code. So if you go here and you go to week 3 and you check my commits, or even if you just click into here, like if you go to this branch, and you go into backend Flask, and you go into lib, and you click into here. It's right here. You can just copy and paste it out of there and save yourself a lot of trouble. So, you know, hopefully that is something that you can use. I'm also noticing the stack method. That kind of sounds to me like class methods, but I guess it's not. But yeah, so hopefully that was a lot of fun, and there's still more videos to go, like the SES stuff. But yeah, there you go.